Let's make a soft sourdough sandwich bread. I'm going to show you the recipe and how to do it. You're going to add 300 grams of your sourdough starter to 650 grams of water. You want to mix that up really well until the sourdough starter has dissolved into the water. From there, you're going to go ahead and add 45 grams of honey, 40 grams of olive oil, and 20 grams of salt. Then you're going to add 1,000 grams of bread flour and mix that really well until there are no dry areas, until everything is fully incorporated. The process of making the soft sandwich bread is very similar to making a regular loaf of sourdough. So once this is mixed, you're going to let it sit for 1 hour, and we're going to do our coil folds just like we would if we were making a standard loaf of sourdough bread. After 1 hour, you're going to uncover it, and we're going to begin our stretch and folds. I always prefer the coil fold method, but for the very first set, I like to do stretch and fold so I can really get it pulled away from the bowl. After I do one standard set of stretch and folds, I do another set of the coil folds. I always do extra folds in the very first set, even when I'm making my regular sourdough bread, so that it can start to gain some strength and structure from the very first set. We're going to be doing a total of 4 sets of stretch and folds every 30 minutes. Again, very similar to how it is when you make a regular loaf of sourdough bread. So once that's done, you can go ahead and cover it and come back in 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, come back and you're going to do the second set of your stretch and folds or coil folds, whichever you prefer. You're going to repeat the same process from the first set, and then you're going to cover and come back in 30 minutes. Once 30 minutes is up, you come back, you do the exact same process again. This is the third set of the stretch and folds. Once that's complete, cover and come back in 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, you come back, uncover, and we're going to do our fourth and final set of our folds. Once this is complete, we're going to cover it and put it in the fridge overnight. So this is different than when you make regular sourdough, because if you were making a regular sourdough loaf, you would just leave it on your counter for bulk fermentation. But for this, we cover it, come back in the morning. The next morning, you're going to take your sourdough out of the fridge and let it sit out at room temperature for 2 hours. Once 2 hours have passed, you're going to uncover and you're going to look at how beautiful and jiggly that dough is, and you are going to dump it out. I would recommend lightly flouring. I didn't do it here and it was a little sticky, but I ended up doing it on the second shaping and it really made a difference. So again, just lightly flour it. You don't want too much flour getting in the dough. From there, you're going to cut your dough into 2. This is enough for 2 different loaves of bread. I've even made it into 3 and 4s if you want to make smaller loaves. But for this, we're going to do 2 regular size sandwich loaves. Then we're going to shape our sandwich bread. So you're going to go ahead and do the same that you generally would for a regular sourdough loaf. Stretch it out until kind of a rectangle. And for this, the only difference is you are going to want to make it a little bit thinner. Press down as you are spreading it to get rid of those bubbles, because we don't want giant bubbles when it's the sandwich bread. Take each side and fold it towards the center without overlapping. Pull the bottom and then roll it as tightly as you can to get it into that little loaf pan shape. Fold the bottoms in, and then when you get a loaf pan, you want to do some kind of nonstick spray, whatever kind you prefer, or you can use parchment paper. Put your loaf in it the exact way that you're seeing it there. You don't want to flip it upside down. You want to leave it that way where the top is at the top. Repeat the exact same shaping process with the second loaf. Spray your loaf pan, put your dough into the loaf pan, and then from there you're going to want to cover them with a towel for about 1 hour before we bake them. After an hour, uncover them, and you're going to score the top to help with the expansion during baking. You can just add a few marks on the top. From there, you're going to want to put some of your cooking spray onto the tin foil. We're going to cover these. Make sure there's a little bit of room between the dough and the top of the tin foil so that as it rises, it doesn't stick. Then you're going to put these in your oven at 400 degrees for 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, take the tin foil off and then continue to bake them for another 20 to 25 minutes, depending how golden brown you want the top. And this is what they look like. So beautiful. I did wait about an hour to cut into them. They taste so soft, so fluffy, and you're never going to want a standard Wonder Bread loaf again after having these.